Problem 22-38. Now that we've finished the sales budget, we are moving on to requirement 2, the production budget here. So now that we know how many bats we're going to sell, that's 1,500 youth bats and 3,000 adult bats, we can figure out how many bats we need to manufacture. And remember, we may already have some bats in inventory, and we probably will want to have some surplus inventory at the end of the quarter, just in case sales are higher than we expected. This production budget, which tells us how many bats we need to make, will be needed to determine our budgets for direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Then when we're done with those three budgets, we can figure out our cost of goods sold budget and our selling and administrative expenses budget. So to calculate the number of bats to produce, we start with the budgeted bats to be sold. So that's going to be our first field here, budgeted bats to be sold. And then we add in the desired bats in ending inventory. So that's plus. And that gives us total bats needed. And then we already have the beginning inventory, so we subtract the bats in beginning inventory. And that gives us budgeted bats to be produced. So the number of bats to be sold here for youth bats and adult bats come from up here. So again, the youth bats were 1,500, adult bats 3,000. So we can input that there. So 1,500 for youth bats, 1,300 for 3,000 for adult bats, and that gives us a total of 4,500 bats to be sold. And now if we are projecting to sell 1,500 bats, we don't want to have only 1,500 bats on hand. We want to make sure we have some left in inventory, just in case we sell more bats than we expect. So now we need to add in desired bats in ending inventory. So we're going to want to open up our other data right here. And it should be right here in C. It's going to tell us our desired ending finished goods inventory is 300 youth bats and 450 adult bats. So it's given to us right there. So after we sell 1,500 youth bats, we want to have 300 left over. So we'll go ahead and input that 300. And then as for the adult bats, after we sell 3,000, we want to have 450 left over. So then we add those desired bats and ending inventory together for a total of 750 bats. So then we need to add together our total bats needed. So it's those budgeted bats to be sold plus the desired bats and ending inventory. So for youth bats, it's going to be the 1,500 plus 300 for a total of 1,800. And for adult bats, it's going to be the 3,000 plus the 450. So that's 3,450. And then the total here overall for all of these bats is going to be 5,250. So again, we expect to sell 1,500 youth bats and then have 300 left over in the ending inventory at the end of the quarter. So we need 1,800 youth bats. However, we might have some inventory already from the previous quarter. So let's take a look over here in our other data. So it looks like for B here, it says finished goods inventory on December 31st, 2025 consists of 500 youth bats at $15 each and 750 adult bats at $17 each. So for that beginning inventory, the bats in beginning inventory here, for the youth bats, that's 500. And then 750 here for the adult bats. So that is going to give us a total beginning inventory of bats of 1,250. So again, because this is a quarterly report, the beginning balance here for the bats in the beginning inventory will be coming from here from the end of the previous quarter, which was ended December 31st, 2025. So That's why we input those there. And then let's go ahead and scroll down. So we have budgeted bats to be produced. So now for budgeted bats to be produced here for the youth bats category, that's going to be total bats needed less the bats in beginning inventory. So here for the first one, that's 1,800 less 500 in the beginning inventory. So that's going to give us 1,300. And then we're going to do the same for the adult bats. So we're going to take total bats needed of 3,450 and subtract out 750. And that's going to give us a total of 2,700 budgeted bats to be produced. And then we have our total budgeted bats to be produced. So that's that 1,300 plus the 2,700, which is going to give us a total of 4,000 budgeted bats to be produced there. And that concludes here the production budget. So let's go ahead and check our answer. Nice work. So the next video, we will work on our direct materials budget, which we couldn't do until we figured out how many bats we needed to produce. So we need to produce then a total of 4,000 bats. So now we've got to figure out, well, how much materials do we need to order and have on hand?